There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when the smile someone gives you is no longer real, when the warmth in their voice hides calculation, when kindness becomes currency. We all feel it, though few admit it. The uneasy suspicion that behind the gestures of civility, there's a silent war being waged, one of power, survival, and control. This is where Machiavelli's ghost still walks among us. We like to imagine ourselves as moral beings, guided by compassion, decency, truth. Yet history, from empires to offices to dinner tables, whispers something darker. Human nature, Machiavelli tells us, is not inherently virtuous. It's cunning, self-interested, and endlessly adaptable. It is better to be feared than loved, he wrote, if you cannot be both. But the brilliance of that statement isn't its coldness, it's its honesty. It pierces through the comforting illusions we wrap around our egos. Strip away the pretenses, and every human interaction carries a shadow, a negotiation for influence, a silent test of leverage. The friend who flatters you might crave approval. The lover who adores you might fear abandonment. Even our acts of generosity, those golden moments of selflessness, often shimmer with the faint reflection of vanity. We build our identities like castles of sand, fragile yet fiercely defended. Machiavelli understood that beneath our moral masks lies an ancient creature, the survivor. He didn't glorify cruelty, as his critics claim. He merely revealed what polite society refuses to see. He recognized that morality and manipulation are not opposites but twin forces entwined in the human heart. Think about it. Every civilization preaches virtue while practicing deceit. Religions condemn pride while building hierarchies of holiness. Governments speak of justice while spinning webs of corruption. Even in the quiet corners of personal life, we curate our words, conceal our motives, and sculpt our appearances to maintain control over how others perceive us. We are storytellers, and our favorite story is the lie that we are good. But why? Why do we cling to this illusion? Because truth is unbearable. To admit the Machiavellian nature of humanity is to stare into a mirror that reflects not our faces, but our instincts, raw, primitive, and predatory. We long for love, yet we use love as leverage. We crave freedom, yet we manipulate others to secure our own. We desire goodness, but only when it costs us nothing. And yet, paradoxically, this ruthless realism does not destroy us. It liberates us. When we see people not as angels or demons, but as complex creatures of self-interest and fear, we begin to understand the real game. The rules are ancient. Adapt, anticipate, and conceal. This is not cynicism. It is clarity. To know the nature of man is to navigate the labyrinth without illusions. Machiavelli was not the devil of politics. He was its anatomist. He dissected human behavior with surgical precision, exposing what kings and commoners alike try to deny. In The Prince, he offered not a manual for tyranny, but a mirror for the human condition. And if we dare to look long enough, the reflection will unsettle us, because it shows not what others are, but what we are capable of becoming. The ruthless truth about human nature is not that we are evil. It's that we are adaptable, capable of love and cruelty, compassion and deceit, depending on what survival demands. Beneath every virtue lies a strategy. Beneath every mask, a hunger. And once you see it, once you truly see it, you can never unsee it again. Man is not what he thinks he is what he hides. André Malraux. The mask, the smile, the game, they are all part of the same theater. And in this theater, sincerity is a performance, and morality, a costume. Yet knowing this does not make us monsters. It makes us awake. Imagine walking through a crowded city street. People rush past, eyes fixed on their phones, faces absorbed in invisible worlds. The air hums with the performance of civility. Polite smiles, empty greetings, gestures rehearsed for centuries. Every face is a mask. Every mask conceals a motive. It is not evil, it is survival. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology had a name. He knew that power is not merely the domain of kings and rulers. It seeps into the veins of daily life. In every family, every friendship, every workplace, There are subtle hierarchies, unspoken alliances, and quiet betrayals. The same forces that drive monarchs to wage wars drive lovers to manipulate affection, friends to compete, and politicians to deceive. Human beings crave control, not always for dominance, but for security. We fear being powerless. And so, we learn the art of subtle conquest. Influence through charm, compliance through guilt, affection through dependency. It is an instinct carved into us by evolution itself. Those who could shape perception, who could hide their motives while reading the motives of others, survived. We inherit that cunning. We just dress it in ethics. You can see it in the way people phrase their compliments, never too generous, lest they appear weak. In the way apologies are crafted, not to admit guilt, but to preserve reputation. Even our social virtues, empathy, humility, forgiveness, are often laced with self-interest. We forgive when it benefits us, show empathy when it earns approval, practice humility when it gains influence. The modern world pretends to despise manipulation, yet rewards it endlessly. Politicians rise through charisma, not honesty. Corporations profit through illusion, not truth. Social media thrives on the art of appearing, not being. We are all, in Machiavelli's sense, princes of our own small realms, maintaining an image of virtue while governing our desires with quiet ruthlessness. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, Machiavelli wrote. For everyone can see, but few can feel. We live in the empire of appearances, where perception rules reality. Truth has become less important than the illusion of truth. Influence belongs not to those who are moral, but to those who appear moral. And so, society becomes a stage and we, its actors. We curate our lives, edit our emotions, censor our instincts. But beneath that performance, the human creature remains the same, the hunter who wears politeness like camouflage. The tragedy is not that we deceive others. It's that we deceive ourselves. We convince ourselves that our intentions are pure, our ambitions noble, our power justified. We do not see the shadow that moves beneath our actions, the quiet hunger for advantage. The mask we wear becomes our face. Yet Machiavelli would not condemn this. He would smile knowingly, perhaps even approvingly. For to him, the measure of wisdom was not moral purity but effectiveness. The capacity to see reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. The one who sees clearly, who knows when to be fox and when to be lion, who understands both cruelty and compassion as tools, that is the one who survives the chaos of human affairs. But here lies the tension, the tragic beauty of his philosophy. To see the truth too clearly can isolate you. Once you recognize the masks around you, innocence evaporates. You begin to notice the strategies behind every word, the performance in every virtue. You stop expecting sincerity, and in that disillusionment, a strange loneliness begins to grow. This is the cost of understanding human nature. The more clearly you see it, the harder it is to love it. The surest way to corrupt a youth, Nietzsche once warned, is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. To think differently about human nature, to see its ruthless beauty, is to walk a narrow road between wisdom and cynicism. The challenge is not to lose faith in humanity, but to see its shadow without turning away. There comes a moment, somewhere between awareness and despair, when one realizes that power is not an external force. It is not a throne, a title, or a crown. It is a current that runs through every human interaction, invisible but omnipresent. To deny it is to drift helplessly in it. To understand it is to begin to swim. Machiavelli saw power not as a possession but as a pulse, an ever-shifting energy exchanged between people. He understood that every gesture, every silence, every act of kindness or cruelty carries within it a calculation, conscious or not. To be human is to navigate this current. Some do it instinctively, others blindly. The wise do it deliberately. We often imagine power as domination, the tyrant's hand crushing the weak. But the truer form of power is subtler, the ability to influence without force, to shape perception without revealing intent. This is where the Machiavellian mind lives, not in tyranny, but in strategy. Think of a conversation where someone makes you doubt your worth. Not with insults, but with well-placed pauses, a faint smile, a glance that says too much, or a colleague who never argues, yet always gets their way. These are not coincidences. They are microcalculations, the mechanics of power at play. It is unsettling to realize how easily we can be guided, persuaded, or subdued, not by brute force, but by suggestion. Human beings, Machiavelli knew, crave the feeling of autonomy, even as they are led. The best rulers and manipulators grant that illusion. They let people believe they are choosing freely, while quietly steering the choices themselves. Power is not merely the capacity to command. It is the mastery of perception, the art of appearing necessary, trustworthy, or inevitable. To gain power is to control the narrative of who you are in the minds of others. And to maintain it, you must accept that loyalty is a currency, not a virtue. This is where Machiavelli's brilliance cuts deepest. He doesn't tell us to be cruel, he tells us to understand cruelty, to use it sparingly, precisely, when no other tool will do. For mercy without strength is weakness, and strength without wisdom is chaos. The ends justify the means, a phrase so often misunderstood, was never an invitation to abandon morality. It was a recognition that morality itself bends under the weight of necessity. History proves him right. The leaders who last are not the kindest, but the most adaptable. Those who understand when to yield and when to strike, when to be seen and when to vanish, when to lie not for greed but for survival. And yet, there is a price. To live with Machiavellian clarity is to feel the burden of perpetual awareness. You begin to see the hidden levers behind every human act. You notice the subtle plays of dominance, in conversations, in politics, even in love. You start to see relationships as chessboards, and it becomes difficult, almost impossible, to play innocently again. But perhaps innocence was never the goal. Perhaps clarity, even if it costs our comfort, is a higher virtue. For in understanding the anatomy of power, we reclaim a kind of freedom, the freedom to act consciously rather than react blindly. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That is the essence of Machiavelli's wisdom. To know your nature and the nature of others is to take back what fate once controlled. To see the truth about human nature is not to become heartless. It is to become awake in a world where most are sleepwalking. The danger is real, clarity can make you cynical, isolation can follow. But in that stillness of understanding, something extraordinary happens. You begin to master not others, but yourself. Because the greatest power is not in manipulation, it is in awareness. The power to see through illusion without losing your humanity. The power to move through the empire of masks without needing one. There's a quiet terror that comes with understanding how power truly works. Once you see the machinery behind the curtain, the strings pulled by fear, vanity, and desire, you can no longer move through the world untouched. You begin to see manipulation not as an exception, but as the rule. And worse, you recognize it in yourself. Because power is never external for long. Once we taste it, even in its smallest form, it rewires something deep within us. It whispers that control is safety, that influence is survival, that to be powerless is to be invisible. Machiavelli understood this temptation. He knew that the pursuit of power begins as protection but ends as addiction. The ruler who seizes the throne to safeguard his people soon clings to it out of fear of losing it. The friend who learns how to win affection begins to fear being unloved. Even the saint, adored by followers, quietly fears irrelevance. Power promises stability but breeds paranoia. It is a paradox that defines the human soul. The more we control, the less free we become. Look at history, emperors who built fortresses only to die imprisoned by their own walls. Generals who conquered continents yet feared betrayal from their closest allies. Leaders who built legacies so vast they suffocated under the weight of their own myths. Power isolates. It creates distance between ruler and ruled, between self and soul. But the same dynamic unfolds in smaller lives. The parent who dictates every choice of their child, the lover who monitors every movement of their partner, the friend who cannot bear to be forgotten. All are haunted by the same fear. To lose influence is to lose identity. And so they tighten their grip until what they sought to preserve begins to die beneath their hands. Machiavelli would warn them, control is not about domination. It's about balance. He admired rulers who were both feared and loved, cunning yet merciful, decisive yet patient. To him, wisdom was not about endless control but about knowing when to let go. The art of rule, like the art of life, lies not in force but in timing. But this is precisely what makes Machiavelli so haunting. He forces us to confront how fragile our morality becomes when tested by power. When we believe we are good, we justify our control as righteous. When we believe others are evil, we excuse our cruelty as necessary. Power, even in small doses, makes philosophers of us all, just not the kind we admire. Nearly all men can stand adversity. Abraham Lincoln once said, "But if you want to test a man's character, give him power." The test is timeless and few pass it. Machiavelli's realism reveals not just political truth but psychological truth, that power magnifies what already exists within us. If a person is insecure, power will make them tyrannical. If they are wise, power will make them patient. The throne does not change the soul, it reveals it. And yet, we cannot live without some form of control. A life without it is chaos, vulnerability, exposure. So, the question is not how to escape power, but how to wield it without losing ourselves to it. How to live with awareness of human manipulation without succumbing to cynicism or despair. Maybe the answer lies in a kind of paradoxical humility, to see through the illusion of control, yet act decisively within it. To know that every victory is temporary, every influence fleeting, and still choose to play the game with grace. Because the truth is this: no one truly owns power. We only borrow it from the shifting tides of circumstance and perception. And when it leaves us, as it always does, what remains is not our throne, but our character. To live with Machiavellian clarity, then, is to walk the razor's edge between strategy and conscience. To understand that control is fragile, that influence is fleeting, and that the only true mastery is over the self. There's a peculiar silence that follows the pursuit of truth, the kind that settles after the illusions collapse, when you finally see the human heart without its disguises. What remains is not cynicism, but clarity. And yet, clarity has a cost. It isolates you from the comfort of naivety. To understand the ruthless truth about human nature is to walk alone through that silence. Machiavelli understood this solitude better than anyone. He lived in exile when he wrote The Prince, stripped of power, reputation, and status. In that isolation, he saw humanity not from the throne, but from the ruins, and what he saw was not cruelty for its own sake, but a deeper instinct for survival. It is easy to dismiss his philosophy as amoral, but Machiavelli was not glorifying deceit. He was holding a mirror to our nature, a mirror that reflects the shadow we all carry, the cunning, the fear, the hunger for recognition. To deny that shadow is to live half-blind. To face it is to begin to understand what it means to be whole. Because power, manipulation, control, these are not external evils imposed upon us. They are extensions of our inner conflicts, our need to matter, our fear of being forgotten, our desperate struggle to impose meaning on a world that often feels indifferent. Beneath every Machiavellian act lies a human longing. To endure, to be seen, to survive. This is the paradox Machiavelli forces upon us. That virtue without realism is fragility, and realism without virtue is despair. To live wisely is to navigate between these extremes, to act with open eyes, yet not with a closed heart. But how? How can one hold both truths, that people are self-interested, and yet still capable of love? That life demands cunning, yet still rewards sincerity? Perhaps it begins with acceptance. Not the cold acceptance of defeat, but the luminous acceptance of understanding. When you stop demanding that humanity be pure, you begin to see its beauty in all its contradictions. The same hand that manipulates can also create. The same mind that deceives can dream. The same will that craves control can sacrifice itself for another. Power and virtue are not enemies. They are the two lungs of the human soul. To breathe with only one is to suffocate. And so, the wisdom of Machiavelli, often feared, often misunderstood, invites not cruelty but consciousness. It asks us to look without flinching, to see without judgment, to act without delusion, to understand that morality divorced from reality is weakness, but reality without morality is chaos. We are all, in our own ways, princes navigating invisible kingdoms, the kingdoms of relationships, ambitions, desires. We rule them imperfectly, sometimes with love, sometimes with fear. But perhaps the goal is not to conquer these realms, but to rule them wisely, to see power not as domination, but as responsibility. Whoever fights monsters, wrote Nietzsche, should see to it that he himself does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. That is the final danger of Machiavellian wisdom, the abyss of knowing too much. For once you see the game beneath the surface, it becomes tempting to play without conscience, to justify every deceit as necessity. But the true strength lies not in manipulation, but in mastery of your own shadow. Because the final truth Machiavelli reveals is not about others. It is about ourselves. The masks we wear, the strategies we use, the moral stories we tell. All are attempts to control the chaos within. When we understand that, when we see the reflection clearly, the mask begins to fall. And what remains is something rare, not innocence, not purity, but awareness. The kind of awareness that looks into the darkness of human nature and says, I see you. And perhaps that is what Machiavelli truly sought. Not a world without deceit, but a humanity that no longer fears to know itself. In the end, we are neither angels nor beasts, but something infinitely more complicated. Creatures capable of cruelty and compassion, deception and truth, destruction and creation. The ruthless truth about human nature is that it is both shadow and light, forever intertwined. And maybe wisdom, real wisdom, begins when we stop pretending to be one or the other and learn to live unflinchingly as both.